Alright, here we are back in the IDE with our Orchestra scripting Galaxy. And the first thing we're going to do is, in this module, I'm going to create the native script user-defined object. So I'm going to look down here at the bottom here for my derivation view. I'm going to go to user-defined object, and it's in the unused base templates because we haven't created any yet. So I'm going to come down here, create a new derived template, and we're going to call this UD native script. Okay, and there is our native script template. Now from here, I could actually just double click this, which takes me straight into the editor for the native script template. I can begin creating UDAs and scripts right here if I wanted to, make those at a higher level and inheritable, or I can just wait and do it inside the instance itself. So in this case, I'm going to do that. So we'll leave the UD native script template, we'll leave it clean, and then I'm going to go new instance, and here is where I'll actually add my UDAs. So the first UDA we're going to add is a string UDA, and this is going to be called username, and here we'll determine it's a string. Alright, the next one is going to be computer name, and it's also a string, and then the other one is going to be a trigger. So we've created a bool, and it's going to be a boolean, and it's going to be we're going to use to trigger the script, which is going to get these guys. Alright, the next thing we'll do is we'll go to the scripts, and we're going to create a script, and the script is going to be called get env variables. Okay, and this is going to be an execution script, and the expression is going to be me.trigger get env variables. Alright, so now whenever the trigger get environment variables boolean goes true, it's going to execute this script. And then now we're going to do a couple things inside the script to make it a little more stable. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up an if statement. If the execution count of the script itself has got to be greater than or equal to 2 before we'll actually allow this script to do anything. And the reason we're doing that is to provide some stability. We're going to let this object get up and deployed and run a couple of scans before we do, so we know we have a good stable operating object here on scan. Alright, now so once we get here, we're going to go out. These are the types. These are where we can get access to all of our .NET libraries. And so I want to actually get a hold of the System.Environment variables. So let's see what they are in here. And basically, if you scroll down through this list, it should be your System.Environment, and then I want to get the machine name. So System.Environment machine name, okay, right there. So we're going to say that our me.computer name. If you'll notice again on the newer versions, you have this IntelliSense, so it's telling me that I actually have an attribute in here that I can use, so I'll go ahead and click on that. And then there you go. Alright, the next one is going to be the username. There it is. And it equals, and let's just use the same thing. System environment. Now I wonder if the IntelliSense will actually work. Yes, it will. So now we're going to look for username. Scroll down through the list here. These are all of my exposed attributes, methods, properties, etc. And we're looking for username. So username, right there it is. Boom. Okay, done. So what that's going to do now, whenever this executes, it's going to load up these. It's going to populate these strings, computer name with what's in the environment machine name, and it's going to populate username with what's in the environment username. Then the next thing I'm going to do after this thing runs is I'm going to set my trigger. So we're going to put it inside here. There you go. So now, after it's executed 2 times, we're going to drop that variable. We're going to populate these and set that variable to false. And okay, so now this should be ready to test. Let's do what this does here, this little check mark, it validates the script. You see that. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and if I had any errors in here, it would show up in my error line right here. Matter of fact, let's do something just to show you that. So let's eliminate that. And let's run validate and see, okay, so I got an error. Get environment variables, execute expected, end if. So, these errors, they're not exact. I mean, it didn't come back and tell me, hey, you need to put a semicolon here after this line. But what it does tell me is it didn't see what it expected. So it's telling me right here where this red is on line 6, that's my error. So basically just backtrack, what is the next thing? So obviously on the next line here, I've omitted a semicolon, so we'll put that in, run the validate, and now we're good. Okay, so here we go. Basically, we are ready to test this script out. So let's go ahead and close it and get environment variables, external references. Can't find it. Wonder what that's all about. Could not resolve reference in me.trigger get environment variable. So what have I done here? Trigger get environment variables. Could not resolve reference in me.trigger get environment variables and attribute get environment external reference. Not resolve reference me.trigger get environment variables. Why? Look here, folks. See, look here what I did. I put 3 G's right here. So that's what it's telling me is that, hey, I can't resolve this trigger get environment variables. I don't know what you're trying to do. So what we're going to do is we'll fix that. And so I had misspelled trigger. I had 3 G's in there. So I went back and fixed that. Now let's go here. Equals false. All right, there we go. So now what I did wrong is I think I had, because it didn't have the 3 G's in here, and so this should work now that it's been verified. And that's why the validate didn't catch it, because the problem was in the expression here on the actual execute. And that did it. So it's fixed now. All right, so here we're just going to put here created native script object. All right, and then so now that we've got it created, we need to deploy it. So we'll go to the deployment view. We'll see it here under undersigned host, and let's just drag it and drop it onto our area. This is where we want it to be. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and deploy these guys. Okay, so we have fully deployed the Galaxy. Let's close the deployment dialog. And what we're going to do is we're going to test this native script object in our script that we created before we ever do any visualization work. So let's just, the best way to do this is to go to the View in Object Browser, or excuse me, Object Viewer. So we'll get the Object Viewer up here. Okay, what Object Viewer does is it actually gives you a window into your object and what's going on in there. So right now, we're going to pull up our 2 attributes that we created. And essentially they should be empty. They're empty right now, and they won't be populated until we set our trigger get environment variable to true. And so once we set this get environment trigger to true, it'll execute the script. The other thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and put the execution count up here so that we can see the execution counts. All right, so what we're going to do now is basically you just double click that thing and it'll pop up a modified Boolean value, and we're just going to set it to true. And when I hit apply, it's going to set that to true and it'll run my script. And then this should go right back to false, and it did. So see what happened was it executed the script, it populated with my username and computer name. So I'm currently logged in www.admin and the computer name is Charles PC. The environment trigger went back to false. That's because our script set it to false, and execution counts for 3. So we got the 2 execution counts for stabilization, and then the 3rd execution count did the business. So this is all working properly. Okay, thank you, and hope this was helpful.